Anjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We'll just wait a minute or so for stragglers. I see people still joining, and we don't want them to miss any of the excitement.
Nanvesh Prabhu, humble request. As a host, can you please mute everyone?
Thank you. I'm looking at the faces that I can see on the screen from South Africa and St. Petersburg, Russia. And of course, the nearby island of Australia, known in New Zealand as the West Island. Vrindavan Dham, I see. Calcutta. All right, we'll begin. Waiting 5 minutes is enough. What's the excitement in our class? I think that.
Prabhu, get the speaker.
I think our host has to mute everyone. I'm wanting to speak on a part of the 10th canto related to Janmashtami that probably, I suspect, you don't ordinarily think about. Krishna is already safely in Braj. What's happening in Mathura? Because that is going to affect life in Braj. In terms of one asura, one demon after another, being dispatched by Kamsa to Braj to meet its demise, its end. And in this way, the Vishnu expansion within Swayam Bhagavan Krishna will take care of all these demons. Krishna's dispatching of the demons in Vrindavan shows a mixture of his Aishvarya, his opulence, and his sweetness. Whereas other pastimes in Vrindavan are all about just sweetness. So let's look at Mathura. Vasudeva has just returned in a way that you can extraordinarily see the activities of Yoga Maya. He comes back to the prison of Kamsa in Mathura. The doors open automatically and shut behind him. He's back in chains, all by the arrangement of Yoga Maya. What is very significant about the events that will unfold is Kamsa's reaction and Devaki and Vasudev's reaction to Kamsa. Surprisingly, we'll hear how Kamsa speaks Atma Tattva, knowledge of the spirit soul. Yet he's done such atrocities. And astonishingly also, we'll hear Devaki and Vasudev forgive him. A mother who's had 6 of her sons killed by her brother. Actually, he's her cousin brother, but in Vedic times you say brother, even if it's cousin. So they forgive Kamsa. What's going on here? And it seems Kamsa really means what he says. He begs for forgiveness. But what happens when he goes to sleep after that long night and wakes up in the morning? Who's he got around him? All the worst. He has around him as advisors demons like Chanura, Pralamba, all kinds of low life. And they're going to fill his head with trash. And Kamsa will be the victim of his association, teaching us a big lesson that you are whom you associate with. Who's around you shapes your life and your consciousness more than you may care to admit. It didn't take much to push Kamsa in a demoniac direction. And certainly Kamsa could not be trusted with his repentance. So let's get into it. You may wonder, let's continue a little bit more in that vein, how Kamsa considered the annihilation of small children to be a very diplomatic or appropriate strategy. This is what selfishness taken in the extreme way, lived in the extreme way, can do. He also felt that, yes, it's quite appropriate what my demoniac ministers say. We should kill all the brahmanas, kill all the cows. When we associate with the material energy, we are subject to such contaminations, which may result in such an extreme state of consciousness. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that by associating with materialists, you naturally, gradually become averse to Krishna, callous to Krishna. You may not just outright reject Krishna, but you just become deadened in that you consider devotional service as optional, as just one of the things you could do with your life, as not pressing. You can put it off. This is the natural result of associating with the material energy. So Vasudeva is in his position, chained in the prison. No one knows that he's been out during the night, carrying the newborn Krishna to Vrindavan. And as you know, Krishna will return 11 years later to Mathura to finish Kamsa. But for now, Krishna is in Braj. Kamsa's guards don't really know what's going on. They don't understand what happened during the night because by the power of Yogamaya, everyone was in a deep sleep. But now they awaken. All the guards wake. Why? A child is crying. The natural crying of a newborn infant just out of the womb. How does Kamsa receive the news brought to him by the guards, the watchmen? He's been waiting very anxiously because remember the prediction. What is it? The 8th child of Devaki will be the end of Kamsa. He's been waiting for that 8th child. Just to make sure, he's killed the preceding children. Except, of course, for Balaram, who has been transferred to the womb of Rohini in Vrindavan. Immediately, Kamsa prepares to take action when the guards inform him. What is the action? Kill the child. It's number 8. There's no doubt this time. I've got to protect my interests. My interests are myself. He rushes into the prison room. What's on his mind? Kala ayam. Here is time. Time has come. The supreme time factor has taken birth to kill me. He's running into the prison room. His hair is all scattered as he approaches the place where the child has been born. Kala ayam. The time has come. Can be taken in 2 ways. The time to kill the child has come, or my own death has come now. He was so filled with fear that as he's running to the room where evidently Devaki has given birth, he's slipping and falling. Such a mighty warrior who has actually defeated Indra in battle. We'll talk about that a little more later. You have to understand how of a monstrous, gigantic brute was Kamsa. So he's rushing to Devaki and Vasudev's prison cell, and he's falling as he's rushing. And what does Devaki do upon seeing her brother rushing in, obviously, to kill the child? And the child, of course, is Yashoda's child, because Vasudeva went with Krishna to Vrindavan and exchanged. Left Krishna as Yashoda's child and took the daughter, who's actually Yogamaya, and brought her. Took Yashoda's daughter and brought her to Mathura to pose as Devaki's daughter, the 8th child. You got it? And that daughter brought from Vrindavan to Mathura is Yoga Maya. You know, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about Yoga Maya Samavrta. Fools can't understand him because he's covered by his Yoga Maya potency. Yoga Maya is for devotees, but Yoga Maya has a special department, Mahamaya, for non-devotees. So what Kamsa will see is Mahamaya, the illusory energy, which is a department of Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya bewilders devotees, and Mahamaya bewilders non-devotees. So Devaki is now appealing piteously, helplessly to Kamsa. She even calls him Kalyana, oh auspicious one. She's doing everything she can to save someone else's child. The Bhagavatam describes her as Devi. She's shining with satisfaction. Why? Because she's been able to hide her son, Krishna. So she's also referred to as Kripana. Helplessly, she's crying out because she wants to save the girl, someone else's child. And she's also known as Sati, in this case, meaning she's expert in cheating Kamsa. She's the wife of a Kshatriya. She knows how to make politics, how to deceive, how to make strategy. She sees he's about to grab the child by force to kill the child. And that's why she calls him Kalyana, oh, auspicious one. She's using everything in her arsenal, so to speak, to stop Kamsa. She tries some strategic techniques. She offers, this child will be the bride of your son. She tried that one out on Kamsa in order to appeal to his greed. But Kamsa wasn't into it. He knew this is the 8th child. I must kill this child before the child kills me. Remember, during Devaki's pregnancy, Kamsa was just mad with the thought, I must kill the 8th child, even though the 8th child cannot be killed. He was caught in the, like a locked up computer. Just, I have to kill the Vishnu, even though Vishnu can't be killed. So illogical. He's mad. Devaki continues to appeal to him. She's a woman. Women can do you no harm. A woman shouldn't be killed. Oh, follower of Dharma. The 8th child's a girl. You don't need to fear death from her. My dear brother, it's destiny that has caused you to kill my babies. Kindly spare this one, though. Give her to me as your gift. So this is her Kshatriya strategy. First, repression. Kamsa, let's focus on your atrocious activities. Then back off and compromise. But whatever you've done is not your fault. It's all ordained by destiny. And then, after compromising, ask for a gift. Give me this daughter as a gift. I'm old. I won't have any more children. This is it for me. Give me this child as a gift, please. Spare this one child. She calls him brother to invoke his familial affection. You have no fault. You were instigated by destiny. Give me this one child. This is my last child. I'm too old to have any more. I'm bereft of all my children. And I'm your younger sister. It would be so fitting, so appropriate if you would give me this last child as a gift. Did it work? She tried her best. No. She's embracing her daughter. Mothers, you can just visualize and feel this. She's embracing her daughter, holding her tight and crying, begging on behalf of her child. But cruel Kamsa just forcibly grabs the child from her hands. He's thinking she's very unfortunate. It's a fact. She's crying like a very poor woman in a most wretched circumstance. But is she really poor and wretched? She's already given birth to Krishna. So who could be more wealthy than her? Now just visualize. You've seen Devaki clutching the child tightly to her chest and Kamsa grabbing the baby out of her hands. Kamsa is kneeling on the ground on his knees, and he grabs the newborn child by the legs and tries to smash the child against a stone. How cruel. How horrible. He throws the child against the stone with great force. And boom, then what happens? The child slips from his grip, rises in the sky. The acharyas say she stepped on his head as she went upwards, used his head as a launching pad and went up into the air. She's Yogamaya, but in this situation, she's going to appear as her department head, Mahamaya, Durga, with 8 arms, each arm equipped with a weapon. Yogamaya appeared that way to Kamsa because, first of all, Kamsa is not entitled to see Yogamaya. He's only entitled to see Mahamaya. And when Kamsa sees this celestial form, this heavenly form, he has faith. He's going to have faith in her words, what she says, because it's Durga. Any of our viewers have in their family tradition worshiping Durga Devi, you know how fanatical that can become. So Kamsa, we're going to talk about Kamsa's reaction. I can't believe it. How can Devaki be an ordinary human being when Durga has appeared from her? She must be transcendental. Durga has appeared from her. He wants to listen to what Durga has to say. And he sees those 8 arms with weapons, and he's a bit frightened. What does Durga Devi tell him? She says, Manda, oh fool. What's the use in your trying to kill me? The one you're looking for, and the one who will certainly kill you, has already taken his birth somewhere else. So what's the use in your killing other children? fool. You can't kill me if you want it. You can't stop your death if you want it. By the way, she points out, I'm not going to tell you where the other child is, the one who will kill you. And besides that, I won't kill you today. She's speaking to him very frankly. What was Kamsa's reaction? He's struck with wonder. I've just heard from Durga Devi. I've just seen Durga Devi. He very humbly approaches his sister Devaki and brother-in-law Vasudeva, releases them immediately from their shackles. He personally does that, the acharyas point out. He doesn't have the guards do it. He's really humbling himself, all because he's seen Durga. How could Durga be Devaki's daughter? That means Devaki is something extraordinary. She's not just an ordinary human being. But don't forget another problem for him to figure out. How is it the eighth child of Devaki was a female? Did the Devatas lie? What about that voice from the sky that ordained that Kamsa would die from the eighth child of Devaki? Remember the wedding day when Kamsa was driving the chariot of Vasudeva and Devaki, and the voice from the sky resoundingly declared, Kamsa, you're such a fool. You're driving the chariot of the mother of her eighth child that will kill you. So that started the whole panic. Just by Durga appearing with her 8 arms, Kamsa's mind changed. Now he wants to make up for all his atrocities. Remember, number 1, how could this ordinary mortal Devaki give birth to Durga Devi? And how could Durga Devi's words be false? This 8th child, a female? I've been lied to. So now he's going to speak 15 verses to pacify Vasudeva and Devaki. 15 verses. He's really into it, in other words. Oh, my sister. Oh, my brother-in-law. I'm so sinful. I'm like a man-eater, a rakshasa, who eats his own child. Look what I've done, killing so many sons born of you. I've forsaken all my family relations. I don't know what my next destination will be. I don't know which planet I'll go to. I'm dead even while breathing right now. At least Kamsa has some understanding that there's a next destination. And he should sometimes be concerned about that. As Srila Prabhupada will explain, Kamsa's more advanced than the political leaders of today. He has some understanding of Atma Tattva, next destination, changing bodies. It's just that being a demon, he just doesn't care. He refuses to accept the ultimate authority in existence. He's kind of like believing in reincarnation or transmigration of the soul without accepting that there's some authority behind it all, some supreme authority. Maybe you've met persons like that. Yeah, I believe in reincarnation. Yeah, I believe we're all spiritual. And that's it. Meanwhile, I'm just doing whatever I want to do. So he's telling Devaki and Vasudeva in so many words, even by going to hell, I won't have sufficiently atoned. Even now, even though I seem to be living, I'm actually dead. Then he starts criticizing the Devatas, the demigods. Well, it seems not only human beings speak lies, but sometimes providence speaks lies. I believe the omen of providence that the eighth child would kill me. And therefore, I killed so many of my own sister's children. So I'm not the only one at fault here. The Devatas are also at fault. They lie. Then he expands upon the point of destiny. He tells Vasudeva and Devaki, oh, great souls, your children have suffered their own misfortune. Don't lament for them. We're all under the control of the Supreme, and we cannot always live together. He calls Vasudeva and Devaki Mahabhaga because although he killed their children, Durga took birth from them. And so now he's comes as praising both Devaki and her husband. So your children have suffered their own misfortune. It's their karma. That's true, partially, in that by saying it's their karma doesn't mean Kamsa will be excused from his karma. Now he starts talking about the difference between the soul and the body. He's got a lot of nerve, doesn't he? He says, clay pots and dolls and other products of the earth appear, and then they break down and mix back with the earth. Similarly, we get bodies, material bodies. And when they're annihilated, the bodies just go back to being earth. Meanwhile, the living entities are unchanging. He's right. But still, we've got big problems here. He goes on speaking about material attachment, the bodily concept of life, feeling attached to relatives, to family members, society, and nation. He says, as long as this continues, one continues his material life. He has some knowledge, but he's still a demon. He can't make the connection between the laws of karma, material body, spirit soul, and the supreme soul. He doesn't want to go there. He can't. So therefore, you see the problem with persons you may meet who kind of accept that there's spirituality, which is these days a step in the right direction, without a doubt. But you can be trapped into demoniac behavior just by thinking there's just the spiritual and that's it. In other words, no authority, no controller, no supreme enjoyer. So Kamsa tells Devaki, my dear sister, all good fortune unto you. How would you handle that? The killer of your 6 sons, one after the other, now says, all good fortune unto you. Therefore, although your sons have unfortunately been killed by me, Please do not lament for them. We're not the body. Body relationships are temporary. Don't lament. Basically, he's saying, please pardon me. Let's analyze the situation very deeply. I'm not the cause of the death of your sons. It was their own destiny. So you should excuse me. Forget my past misdeeds. Whatever I've done was under the control of Providence. It seems like I was the immediate cause for the death of your sons, but actually there's a remote cause, their past deeds. Do not grieve. I've only killed the bodies of your sons, so I should not be blamed. What do you think? He continues on this point. Remember, he's speaking 15 verses to pacify Vasudeva and Devaki. Someone thinks I'm being killed or I've killed others. As long as such a foolish person considers the self to be the killer of the killed, he continues in the chain of karma and suffers the reactions of happiness and distress. So basically, Prabhupada explains, he's feeling sincere regret for his unnecessarily persecuting such wonderful Vaishnavas as Vasudeva and Devaki. So he's expounding transcendental knowledge. But you're suspicious, right? Wait a minute, this is Kamsa. These words of wisdom are coming from Kamsa. He gets a bit more, how do we say, outrageous. Although he's speaking wisdom, we know he's being outrageous. Even though the words he states are true, still it's all coming from Kamsa. And so you're wondering. Basically what he's saying now is, because I'm situated on the platform of knowledge, understanding that I am not at all the killer of your sons, I have no responsibility for their death. As long as I thought I would be killed by your eighth child, I was in ignorance. But now I'm free from this ignorance, which was all due to the bodily conception of life. Did you know that during World War II, the Nazi leader Heinrich Himmler said the very same thing? He was the head of the infamous SS, who exterminated millions upon millions of people. Not simply millions of Jews, but also persons called the Roma, loosely known as gypsies. So, disgustingly, Heinrich Himmler carried in his back pocket always a copy of Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because he had his own way of reading it. He wasn't reading it in parampara. He felt that it excused him and his Nazi cronies from receiving any blame in their genocide. Because we're not the slayers. We're not the doers. And he said, Bhagavad Gita proves this. His favorite verse, it is said, is from the 18th chapter. Let's see if you remember this verse. Yasya nahan krito bhavo buddhya yasya nalipyate Atapi sa imalukan nahanti na nabudgete. Remember that verse? Maybe not. Here it is. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, is not the slayer, nor is he bound by his actions. Evidently, that was Heinrich Himmler's favorite verse to show that I'm not the slayer, although I kill people. My fellow Nazis were not at fault. We neither are slain nor slay. The verse shows this. What do you say? He forgot crucial elements of the verse. One who is not motivated by false ego. That means acting on his or her own accord. The only way you cannot be motivated by false ego is to do what Krishna wants. And certainly Heinrich Himmler was not doing what Krishna wanted. So that's number one who is not motivated by false ego. Number two, whose intelligence is not entangled. Does Heinrich Himmler fit that qualification? No. His intelligence is completely entangled in the material energy. So therefore, he's got big problems. Both he and Kamsa were thinking, since I don't identify with the body, I incur no sin, nor do I get any bondage of karma for killing the children. Doesn't work like that because the intelligence is entangled and there's the motivation by false ego. So now Kamsa is going to beg. Such a ferocious tyrant. He makes tyrannical leaders that we hear about in recent history look like children. My dear sister and brother-in-law, please be merciful to such a poor-hearted person as me. You both are saintly persons. Please excuse my atrocities. And he falls at their feet, his eyes full of tears of regret. So he's spoken very nicely, yes? But his past deeds were extraordinarily abominable. So now, knowing that, he is begging forgiveness even more by falling at their feet. So we can ask any mothers, someone has killed 6 of your sons in a row and now is falling at your feet, begging for forgiveness, admitting I'm such a sinful person. What would you do? What are Vasudeva and Devaki going to do? Hearing a tattva from such an abominable person who's done such an abominable thing. Now, Jiva Goswami adds a very interesting comment. He said, you need to take into account that when someone is inimical to Krishna, when someone hates Krishna, even if they speak knowledge of the Atma, that knowledge of the Atma for them simply nourishes their cruelty. They're inimical to Krishna. They hate Krishna. Therefore, even when they seem to possess some Atma Tattva, that possession of non-material knowledge, how we're different from the body, just makes their cruelty worse. And you can see that in the case of, you'll see it in the case of Kamsa. once he goes to sleep and wakes up the next morning. And you certainly saw it in the case of Heinrich Himmler. So now, because he has full faith in Durga Devi, Kamsa will release Vasudeva and Devaki from their iron shackles. He trusts Durga Devi. He's still wondering, who lied to me? What demigod, what Devata lied to me and told me the eighth child would be male? Remember, Yogamaya in her departmental head as Durga Devi has taken the role of the eighth child and just flew up in the air and said, you can't touch me, you can't kill me, and I'm not going to kill you now, but I'll tell you, you're a dead man sooner or later. But Kamsa is still overpowered by seeing Durga Devi. Now, Vasudeva and Devaki are going to speak. I keep thinking about this for years, decades, how Shukadeva Goswami explains that Devaki is relieved of all anger because she saw her brother Kamsa actually repentant. She's relieved of all anger. Could you give up your anger for someone who killed one of your family members? What speak of six? What speak of a mother? 6 sons, one after the other. So what kind of people are we, what kind of personalities are we dealing with here? She was free from all anger, and so was Vasudeva. And Vasudeva is smiling as he replies to Kamsa. So Prabhupada explains that they're highly elevated personalities, Devaki and Vasudeva. And they did accept that Kamsa was speaking correctly, Atma Tattva. Everything is preordained. Destiny has killed your children. I didn't do it. But remember, Vasudeva and Devaki, although sincere in their forgiveness, they're Kshatriyas. They're thinking, yes, everything is arranged by destiny. Our 6 sons were killed by destiny, and you'll also be killed by destiny. So it's hard for me to put this together, that they're sincere about giving up their anger. And they're impressed completely by Kamsa's repentance. At the same time, they're being cagey. It's hard for us to put that together, right? These are not normal personalities. They saw that behind all these events is the supreme strategy of the Supreme Personality Godhead. And since Krishna has already taken birth, he's safely in the home of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Indeed, everything is happening according to plan. So why should we continue to be angry at Kamsa? He'll be dead soon. So again, how do you put together those two things? The freedom from anger, the forgiveness, the smiling, and at the same time, the strategic outlook. So now we're going to go over 2 verses of acceptance by Vasudeva and Devaki. They tell him, this is Vasudeva speaking, O Mahabhaga, O great personality. What you said about the Atma Tattva philosophy is correct. Only out of ignorance does someone accept the material body and the false ego. And Vasudeva explains, elaborating on what Kamsa said, that materialistic people are influenced so much by the immediate cause, and they're so busy counteracting the immediate cause because they have no knowledge of the remote supreme cause. Prahlad Maharaj says the same thing in the 7th canto. Seeking immediate remedies and not seeing what is the real problem. We need transcendental knowledge to remind us that the real problem is material existence, and you need to make a plan how to stop material existence. Otherwise, if you just deal with immediate causes, you've missed the point completely and you've wasted your valuable human form of life. Without a connection to Krishna, you're always going to be disturbed by immediate causes. You may stop this immediate cause, and then you're attacked by another immediate cause, and another, because you've never gotten to the root. You've never dealt with the remote cause, the supreme cause. So what you see in human society today, in their environmental efforts, half-hearted as they are for the most part, in their public health efforts, in their economic and political efforts, what you see is they're just juggling immediate causes. They can't solve the root problem. They don't even know the root problem. They don't know that there is a root. There is an ultimate or remote cause. They don't know that. Don't want to know it. They take pride. We're dealing with this immediate cause, that immediate cause. Trust us. Here's the way. But Krishna bhaktas, bhakti yogis, don't want to waste their life in that way. They want to get to the bottom of the whole riddle of material existence. We just don't want to waste our life battling immediate causes. We'll always be disturbed in that way by one immediate cause or another. So Kamsa listened to Vasudeva and Devaki, their pure words. And he felt satisfied. He felt pleased. They've forgiven me. They reciprocated with what I said, with their own words of wisdom. Everything is all right. So he took their permission after having imprisoned them for so long. Now he's taking their permission. Can you imagine, again, someone kills 6 of your children and then asks permission. Can I take rest now? Can I go to sleep? Now that you've forgiven me? That's why I like this chapter. In many ways, it's just astonishing. It's outrageous. We feel so puny and tiny compared to such great personalities as Vasudeva and Devaki. And then remember, even a hideous demon like Kamsa has some knowledge of Atma Tattva, as Prabhupada reminds us. Kamsa knows more than the political leaders, heads of state of today. Just like our dear Prime Minister of New Zealand, bless her soul. She says she's an agnostic. I gave up on religion in my 20s. And the people think, yeah. We don't want religion influencing governmental policies. Of course, the problem is people don't know what is real religion. And Therefore, sometimes they're correct in fearing religious influence on government policies. But once you know what is real religion, what is Dharma, then that is a different situation. Therefore, although our Krishna conscious society is small, we've embarked upon such a huge task because that's what Srila Prabhupada requested of us. And he makes that request because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's request. Wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach the science of Krishna. He's saying, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying the same thing as Krishna when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, surrender to me. So we're the humble servants. All right, Kamsa's happy. He enters his home. Devaki and Vasudeva have spoken in such a way that they've gained Kamsa's trust. Oh, they believe me. They forgive me. He's pleased with their words. Kamsa's thinking, they've agreed with my philosophy, my presentation of Atma Tattva. They're honest about it. They're not faking. There's no duplicity. And indeed, Shukadeva Swami confirms there is no duplicity. They honestly forgave him. They accepted what he said. They were smiling. At the same time, they were strategic. They knew you're a dead man. Okay, all's well that ends well, right? No. Kamsa wakes up in the morning, and who does he call for? Bring my ministers. And he began to explain to them everything that had happened. The words of Yogamaya telling that the one who was going to kill him was already born and is now somewhere else. Remember, Durga misled Kamsa because that's the job of Durga Devi. Maya doesn't tell the truth. Your enemy, the eighth child, has been, the enemy who's going to kill you has been born somewhere else. Now, Krishna had appeared from Devaki. But Durga Devi is saying, oh, no, he's somewhere else. She's cheating him. That's what the material energy does to us. So Krishna has gone to Vrindavan to give pleasure to Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj for 11 years. And then he'll return to take care of Kamsa. Kamsa didn't know this, of course. He believed in Mahamaya, that Krishna has been born somewhere else, not of Devaki. So Kamsa is consulting his ministers, and they're going to really pour it on. Oh, they don't want Kamsa backing off, calming down. They want to urge him forward in more atrocities. Now you may say, well, what happened to all the knowledge, the Atma Tattva that Kamsa was speaking? Again, how do you expect transcendental knowledge to remain steady in the heart of someone who hates Krishna? Remember, we talked about how the Atma Tattva knowledge simply increases the cruelty of someone who is inimical to Krishna. Now we're hearing that such knowledge won't remain steadily in the heart of someone who is anti-Krishna. So Kamsa's got hideous ministers like Pralamba, Keshi, Chanura. You know them all from Krishna Lila. These demons have the mystic ability of Kama Rupa. They can change into any form they like. So you'll see how they do that. Particularly Pralamba, like Keshi. They'll take hideous forms and raid Vrindavan. So the ministers have heard Kamsa and they're going to advise him. They think they're very expert. That's the way of material existence. You have to submit to such false experts. And whatever they do is imperfect. You won't find on the material platform perfection. No matter where you search in material existence, there'll always be some cheating, always be some imperfection. There'll always be some problems going on right up front or behind the scenes. I always explain this to devotees when they ask me about certain pharmaceutical issues. I said that very nicely, didn't I, to avoid controversy? Should we get a blank or should we not? And I say, look, if you are searching for purity on the material platform, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but you're not going to find it. You've got to just cut wood with the best saw around. I'm a pragmatist. I'm not pro or con. I'm dealing with material existence in a pragmatic way. I don't expect any perfection on the material platform. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? 18th chapter. He says, every material endeavor has some fault, just like fire always comes with some smoke. This is Krishna warning you. Don't search for perfection on the material plane. There's always some problem. Someone is always cheating somewhere, somehow. So I point out to devotees that, what are you going to do? Stop driving a car? Petroleum industry? What are you going to do? Stop eating food? So many impurities, even organic food, unless you grow the food yourself in your own backyard, which I know all of you are doing. You don't know what's in the food. Of course, the water is pure, right? Even bottled water. And the air we breathe is free of any pollutants. On and on it goes. In other words, if you're in material existence and have a material body, guess what? You are compromised. Just face it. But sometimes, and you can understand in this age of mistrust, remember those of you who are TV watchers back in the 90s, the program X-Files. The truth is out there, someone. Don't trust anyone. But we're not trusting anyone, and there's good reason for that. But meanwhile, life has to go on. So again, when persons ask me about blank, should we get a blank or should we not get a blank? I just say I'm neither pro nor con. I recognize I'm compromised by living in the material world. If it's not this problem, it's going to be that problem. All I can do is think how to best serve Krishna while not expecting a rose garden in the material world. The best solution to the problems of material existence is get out of here. Don't take another body. And what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Janma karma chame divyam, evam yo veti tattvata, chakva deham punar janma, naiti mameti so Arjuna. Understand the mystery, the divine mystery of my appearance in this world and my activities. Know it in truth, scientifically. And then upon giving up the present body, you don't take another material body. Mameti, you come to me. There is the ultimate medical solution, the ultimate environmental solution, the ultimate political solution. So we were reading about how Kamsa's ministers thought they were so expert, superficially showing expertise in passionate activities. You go to a zoo, I've done it, and you'll see the monkeys jumping around so expertly, so passionately, so enthusiastically. But we all know they're fools. But superficially, they're showing expertise. So Kamsa, so attached to his selfishness, accepted these friends and ministers as his guides. Now, briefly, let me explain one thing. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that Kamsa, he's a real person. This is not allegory. He's a real person, but he's showing you how materialistic persons want to snuff out transcendental knowledge, non-material knowledge. Kamsa is the supreme empiricist. There's nothing in existence except the material. I don't want any knowledge of Krishna interrupting my scene. You see, he accepted that there are devatas. He accepted that there is the spirit soul, but still, ultimately, everything is material in that there is no supreme controller, no supreme enjoyer. Hope you can understand that. So therefore, his determination to kill Krishna demonstrates to you, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, the eagerness of those who simply accept knowledge through their material senses as the ultimate. Shows what they want to do. We don't want any transcendental impetus, non-material impetus taking over the world. We've got to snuff it out straight away, nip it in the bud. So Kamsa and his ministers thought they were very expert at that. They don't have any real qualification. But hearing Kamsa's words as he explained to them what happened the previous night, they explode with anger toward the devatas. They call Kamsa a very interesting name, Bojendra. Usually you would think Bojendra means king of the Bojas. But it also can mean, Sanatana Goswami tells us, you enjoy your sense objects without worry. It's a great compliment from one demon to another. Of course, it's impossible to enjoy sense objects without worry, but they Complimented comes in that way. It's like the greatest compliment. Oh, Bojendra, you can enjoy your sense objects without worry. This shows that you are the greatest. That never happens. As soon as you try to materially enjoy, there must be worry. There must be anxiety. Isn't that what Prahlad Maharaj told his father, Hiranyakashipu? Tat sadhu manyeya suryavarya dehinam sadasamadvigya diyam asatgrahat. Anyone who accepts the material body as the self must always be in anxiety. So now you're going to hear 12 verses of the demoniac ministers planning havoc. We'll go over those quickly. Beginning today, we'll kill all the children born in all the villages within the past 10 days or a bit more. Don't worry about the demigods, they tell Kamsa. When you just twang your bow, you're not even fighting, but just dang, the demigods all run away. The demigods are always fleeing the battlefield, defeated by you. Now, this is true. In the Vishnu Purana, it's described that Kamsa actually defeated the Devatas. And Indra was even dominated. And when Indra, in retaliation, stopped the rain in Kamsa's kingdom, Kamsa made it rain with his arrows by shooting them at clouds. So Kamsa was demonstrating to Indra, I'm so powerful, I can produce rain by my will. So the ministers are pointing out, look, you've done all this before. You're the greatest. The demigods are all afraid of you. Not only are they afraid of you, but they've appeared before you, defeated, crying out to you, oh Lord, we are very much afraid of you. And you're so merciful when you see that they've lost the ability to fight. You don't attack them. You let them go. You fight fairly. You follow the rules of combat. This is how great you are. But don't do it now. Now is an emergency. You should fight them any kind of way. Give up all the traditional etiquette and fighting and just do anything. If you try to be so-called righteous, you'll increase the strength of the Devatas. In other words, as you may hear from friends and relatives when they see your bhakti lifestyle, especially those from India, what do they say? This is not the time for Dharma. That's what Kamsa's ministers are telling him. Normally, you follow Dharma a little bit, you don't attack warriors who are frightened, but you can't do that now. This is not the time for Dharma. We've got the most serious situation here. These demigods, these devatas are so frightened that they're useless. You have nothing to fear from them. Ah, you may say, what about Lord Vishnu? Vishnu, he's buried in the hearts of the yogis and can't come out. What about Shiva? Shiva's gone to the forest. Who knows where he is? What about Brahma? He's always absorbed in meditation and doing austerities. You have nothing to fear, in other words. The other demigods, headed by Indra, they don't have any ability. So they're really pushing on Kamsa. And it's Kamsa's fault to be surrounded by such fools. Fools he thinks are so expert. And of course, it's his own fault to have a heart like he does. A heart in which, even when he speaks Atma Tattva, that knowledge won't stay within him. So the ministers are telling him, you've got to bear down on the situation. You can't neglect the situation. You have to uproot these devatas completely. We're ready to follow you. Just give us the order. So Kamsa might say, but the devatas, they've already run away in fear. But his ministers tell him, you've got to get to the root of the devatas. Vishnu, he's appeared as a child. He's hiding somewhere. Because he's hiding, we can't get to him. But if we can get to the all that's he's supporting, that's as good as getting to him. And that way we'll uproot our enemies completely. You've got to take care of disease immediately. Otherwise, things get worse down the road. And they give a nice example. Just like the yogis trying to control the senses. If the senses are not controlled at first, they're impossible to control later. What do these demons know about sense control? But anyway, sounds good what they're saying, doesn't it? So now in 4 verses, they're going to speak of how to kill Vishnu, even though Vishnu's hidden. They identify that wherever there are religious principles, traditional culture, the Vedas, cows, brahmanas, austerities, and sacrifices, that's where Vishnu lives. Vishnu is the foundation of all the devatas. I like, and I've always been thinking of what Prabhupada says in this purport of text 39. The Asuric adherents of Kamsa wanted to disrupt the traditional condition of human happiness. Think about that. Our present civilization has no idea of the traditional condition of human happiness. Yet everyone wants to be happy. Sometimes they say they're happy, but they have no idea because the real ingredients of a happy civilization have been long ago disrupted. So therefore, people can only hope against hope. So again, we're dealing with 4 verses about how to kill Vishnu, even though Vishnu's hidden, how to get at him from other ways that are just as effective as killing him. So what do the ministers say? We're going to kill the brahmanas, kill the cows. Brahmanas need ghee for yagyas. Take care of the cows, kill them. There'll be no yagyas. Kill the brahmanas. There'll be no priests to do the yagyas. In this way, they're recommending what is the best dharma. They're saying the best dharma is what crushes their dharma. Even though Vishnu's hidden, when we kill Vishnu's assistants, that's as good as killing Vishnu. By killing the brahmanas, we stop all the Vedas, we stop austerity, we stop sacrifice. And of course, we have to kill the cows because they supply ghee for yagyas. So we live in a so-called civilization that kills lots of cows and kills the brahmanas, not physically, but by making it impossible almost for someone to live life as a brahmana. Many of you know how difficult it is to dedicate a life to teaching wisdom, learning wisdom, distributing wisdom. Sooner or later, the economic realities push us to our knees. That's because we're living in a civilization that doesn't respect the cows and the role of brahmanas as topmost. Therefore, when you offer prayers to Krishna, you say, Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. You're the protector of the cows, first of all, and then number two, the brahmanas. Krishna likes the cows even more than the brahmanas. So this is the plan of Kamsa's ministers. Finish off the brahmanas, the cows, Vedic knowledge, austerity, truthfulness, control of the mind and senses, faith, mercy, tolerance, and sacrifice. These are different parts of the body of Vishnu. These are the paraphernalia for a godly civilization. So therefore, we finish off those parts of the body of Vishnu, and that's as good as finishing off Vishnu. Moreover, we've got to finish off the Vaishnavas. That will totally finish Vishnu. We have to suppress Krishna consciousness. Vishnu has been born on earth, but he can't be seen. He's hiding. He's living somewhere. Because he's hiding, we can't catch him, even if we kill all the children. But if we kill the cows, which are the root of Dharma, still Vishnu will escape because the Brahmana sages are left. The Brahmana sages propagate Dharma. And we know Vishnu gets his life from Dharma. By attacking the places that give Vishnu life, by attacking his roots, we can kill him, although he hides like a commander in a fortress. They think they're so smart, don't they? Nevertheless, their demoniac plans are carried out today to varying degrees. So much cow killing, as we said, and a consumer society makes it almost impossible for someone to be a real Brahmana. So Kamsa gave the okay. He pushed the button. Yes, let's do it. This is the only way to achieve my good fortune. As we said before, Kamsa knew something about Atma Tattva. You saw that, you heard that in his discussions with Vasudeva and Devaki. But this is what bad association will do. He totally misunderstood how to act for his own welfare. He was of bad intelligence, and the advice from his ministers showed they had bad intelligence. So it all multiplies. One bad intelligence, other bad intelligences, you just get a bigger and bigger mess. And that's what's happening in society today. In spite of all their plans, nature's retaliating. Bushfires, too much rain, too little rain, earthquakes, pandemics. So Kamsa gave the demons permission. Yes, execute. Persecute the Vaishnavas. Take any form you like with your mystic powers. Persecute the saintly persons. Destroy Dharma. Destroy the Vedas, truthfulness, mercy, sacrifice, austerity. Destroy it all. Then Kamsa enters his palace. It's been done. Of course, Shukadeva Goswami points out, these demons don't know they've invited their own death. Their hatred is demonstrating death is near. So the chapter ends with the famous verse, Ayu Shriyam Yasho Dharmam Lokan Ashishya Evacha Hanti Shayamsi Sarvani Pumso Mahad Atikramaha. My dear king, when a man persecutes great souls, all his benedictions of longevity, beauty, fame, religion, blessings, and promotion to higher planets will be destroyed. All right. I told you it would be exciting. I hope you heard it in that way also. It's a chapter, as I said in the beginning, that not everyone really pays much attention to. We like to focus on the actual appearance of Krishna to Devaki and his being taken to Vrindavan. But I thought to catch you off guard and show you insights revealed by Srimad Bhagavatam that you might not normally focus upon. All right. So I've been talking for almost an hour and a half. You may have some questions, but I should retire and you should retire too. So I thank you very much for your kind attention and association. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful class. So we'll end here. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Maharaj ki jai. Gaur Bhaktam ji. Hare Krishna. Jai.